Today we have a guest speaker with us, Michael Vandi, the CEO of Addy AI. And as the name says, Addy AI, so it must be something with the AI. So we're going to hear from Michael. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Kashif. Happy to be here.
So, Michael, being an Open Tech Talks first time as a guest speaker, and the show is nowadays focusing on artificial intelligence, generative AI, and the objective is to give something back to society so that based on our experiences, the audience can learn from us. And being you as the expert today as a speaker, so if someone a new listener, how he will understand who is Andy, who's Michael, what he's doing, and what is this Addy AI.
Right. So, a little bit about me. I've always been interested in software engineering, computer science, and tech. I learned how to code when I was 14, growing up in Freetown, Sierra Leone. And then I moved to the United States for college, undergrad, studied computer science, and then worked at AWS for a little bit. I also did a bunch of extracurriculars in college. And during my time at AWS, I just quit AWS to do my master's at CMU, focusing on software engineering. I did some AI classes there as well. That's when I deeply became interested in artificial intelligence and started tinkering with AI and building on top of large language models, and eventually built a tool for myself on YouTube Live that was Addy AI. It was never meant to be a company. I just built it on YouTube Live, and then people started requesting access to it, and then it became a company. So in its current form, Addy AI, what we're doing is we're building the world's first AI loan processor.
Okay.
So right now it takes anywhere from like 45 to 60 days, even higher, to close a mortgage loan. And that's because the loan officers have to do a lot of manual tasks like reviewing documents, managing client follow-ups, doing due diligence on their borrowers. So we put all of that into AI agents and then help these loan officers review these documents and then close loans up to 90% faster.
Okay. Now, as you said, you just built up a video, and people start asking it, but why it started about loan? I mean, maybe do you have experience on it, and what was the rationale behind that? You need, because AI is a very vast with the large language model. You mentioned it.
Most of our initial customers were loan officers. We're in the
Okay.
banking and lending industry. So we started off with a broad tool. What it would do is it would look at your emails and then it would respond to emails for you, send client follow-ups. And guess what? Loan officers send a lot of follow-ups. So we got a
Mhm.
stream of loan officers into the platform. And then we decided to niche and ask them, well, what more can we do for you other than
Mhm.
helping you write emails faster? So we did like hundreds of customer interviews, and then we got use cases. And actually, I was still in school by then, so that gave me the free time to do all of these interviews without having an actual product market fit at the time. So once I graduated,
Mhm.
I had a host of ideas to move forward with.
Okay. And now, if we talk about a little bit on the technology side, uh, how the it is processing a loan applications, which was not possible before,
Yeah.
if someone is using RDAI. So maybe give a context of if before, if someone is not using, and if you start using it, what is the difference before and after?
Right. I'll give context on what the technology does. I think that
Mhm.
would be a good anecdote to talk about how it helps the before and after.
Right.
So I think AI is the first truly non-deterministic technology.
Mhm.
Before, when you give a computer an input, you know exactly the kind of input that was going to be, displayed to you. So if you look at it from the context of loans, you have, let's say, a W-2 that you need to process. And let's say you put all of the numbers into an Excel spreadsheet, and then you do like a sum, and then it gets
Mhm.
you their total income and whatnot.
Mhm.
Now, when you're looking at it from an AI perspective, there's a lot of risk of hallucination. So the AI
Mhm.
model just making stuff up. Um,
Mhm.
there's also a lot of risk of privacy security, sending
Right.
models to OpenAI. So we looked at it from those two angles and we're like, well, we could train our own models and not only
Mm-hmm.
train our own models, but train our models for like specific things that cause the most bottleneck for loan officers. So one of the
Mm-hmm.
things is when people submit a loan application, it is never 100% complete. You never like submit a loan application, you get all your documents, and then in 2 days, you're like, it's done. Here's your money. Go buy a house. It's
Mm-hmm.
usually missing like one or two documents that you forgot. The loan officer is looking at it and finds some anomalies and then calls you to request those documents. You might be at work. That creates some bottleneck. So what we did was we built an AI that would look at the entirety of the loan application, determine all of the documents that were missing, and then give the borrower a call requesting those documents. And that doesn't
Mm-hmm.
have any math to it, doesn't have like risks of like hallucinations. And because we really focus the model to be constrained. So that's one of the areas that we're targeting. Before, you have to make a bunch of calls to your borrowers. Now you don't have
Mm-hmm.
to make a bunch of calls, which saves you like a couple extra days in the loan origination process.
Okay, so it's like reading the files, maybe with the RAG or something, and then you're processing with large language models. And before reaching to the loan officer, you're trying to finalize the application so that he can have a final application. Is this what I'm understanding?
Yes, we do a lot of RAG.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so retrieval augmentation, we also fine tune the models. And
Okay.
in addition to fine tuning the models, we make sure that the models are hosted on separate instances for each of our customers. That way they don't like, you know, share data. We're hosted on separate endpoints.
Okay. And how these are fitting within the larger ecosystem of banks where they have those financials and the applications and the systems inside those.
Yeah. So banks are really hard to adopt new technologies.
And that's why I asked it.
They have 50-year-old mainframes running COBOL, and
Right.
you're coming with the shiny new AI tool. And the only way it could be done, that's the way we're doing it, is if you do a
Mhm.
bunch of integrations with the tools that they
Mhm.
already use.
Mhm.
You don't replace any of their tools right yet. You build on top of them. So in the loan origination industry,
Mhm.
there are tools like Encompass, which is sort of a, a loan origination system. There are tools like NSYNCO, which is sort of a POS for borrowers. They upload their documents to the portal. And
Mhm.
then tools like email and all of that. So with email, you could choose to integrate with the email client itself, or you just build your own SMTP server from the ground up and just
Mhm.
ingest all of their emails. So, how it fits within the larger ecosystem is writing a bunch of custom code for a customer. So, when a customer comes in, we're like, what are all of the tools that you use? And then we give
Mhm.
an engineer and say, go figure out how to integrate all of their tools into our software and then
Mhm.
bring all of the data and then convert them into embeddings and then label those embeddings. We use a graph database.
Right.
Irregular embeddings would not really work for our process. We use a graph
Mhm.
database. And then that would really help match nodes and vertices. That way, when you search for something, it doesn't only
Mhm.
give you the similarity, but it gives you like similarities to similarities to similarities, like a bunch of similarity searches. And yeah, it's a bunch of integrations and a bunch of custom code.
And do you have now paid customers with you?
Yes, we have a lot of paid customers. We have
Mhm.
banks, one bank in Switzerland that's using it. We have independent mortgage banks in the US that are
Mhm.
using it. And next week, we're actually doing our first Australian deployment. So that's going to be
Mhm.
interesting.
Okay. And you said it's a private installation for each your customer. So is it just an endpoint or the whole solution, including the fine-tuned model, you're putting it separately for each customer?
Yeah. So the front end that they see is a web app that's hosted on a
Okay.
specific domain. The
Mm-hmm.
AI models is an endpoint. So we train the models, deploy them to GCP, Vertex AI, and then we put them in
Mm-hmm.
Vertex AI separate endpoints, and then we create
Mm-hmm.
those endpoints. And then we do the database integrations. And then I think some of the database stuff, we try to make it like it's like completely separate instance, even like the authentication information, like usernames and passwords. it's only for the organization. And
Hmm.
then after that, we come in and then figure out what are all of the tools that they use. And then we have to write some custom code. It doesn't really take a long time because we have really great engineers. But the front end that they see um, is a web app. What I'm very
Right.
excited about is the AI agent stuff, because if you
Mm-hmm.
think about user interface for AI agents, the whole idea of AI agents is that they do something, you tell them, and they do something for you, and then they
Right.
come back to you with the results. But how do you know the process that they took, right? How do you know
Mm-hmm.
like the buttons that they clicked and things like that? It's
Mm-hmm.
a problem that we're figuring out. So some of our AI agents that do telephone calls, we just provide the transcripts and then analysis of the transcripts so people can see it. But it's really hard for you to intervene while the AI
Mm-hmm.
agent is like doing stuff. So I wish there would be some sort of like CCTV camera, just like looking at your AI doing stuff, and then you can like jump in like in the middle of a call of like the AI agent doing a call, and then you can tell them
Mm-hmm.
to go a different way. But it's an exciting piece of technology, and really excited for like what's going to come in like next 4 or 5 years.
All right. Now, maybe if from our audience point of view, if someone is going through similar to your that they want to have the large language models, fine tune it based on their own data, and you have gone through this journey of maybe last 1 and 2 years, and you have a now working product which is being used by several customers. So maybe if you can give us some, if we maybe narrow down to top three tips or suggestions
Yeah.
for them, how they can take it up in their industry whatsoever.
Right. um I would say, if I think about this question a little bit deeper, I would talk about my process and how
Yeah.
we did it. So usually the market will pull the right product out of you.
Mm.
So just follow the market. So when we started with like an email assistant, like calling the ChatGPT API. And
Mhm.
then even ChatGPT did not have an API at the time. They launched the API in like
Right.
March later on.
Hmm.
So we reverse engineered the front end of ChatGPT to like get their access tokens and then use the UI to
Hmm.
call. Once the API started, we called the ChatGPT API, and then an influx um, of open source models came in. Then we started
Right.
experimenting with those, and we even built our own fine tuning library. But then
Hmm.
other people started building fine tuning libraries. So the market
Right.
shifted. We were like, well, we can't compete with like an AI lab of 50 people building fine tuning libraries. Let's use their own fine
Mhm.
tuning libraries.
Right.
So it's like always following the iteration of the market, like keeping up to date with everything that's happening.
Hmm.
One of the things that we're looking at right now is the recent O1 models from
Right.
ChatGPT that can do chain of thought reasoning. We haven't quite experimented with it yet, but it's moving so fast that you have to be agile enough to change
Hmm.
and adapt to the market. That I
Right.
would say is my biggest tip. I know you asked for 3 tips,
Mhm.
and I can go deeper if there are like other tips, but that's like one of my biggest.
Okay. So you kept yourself aligned to what is coming and how you can take it up to iterate your process, or maybe if you have developed something, take the new feature or the way of doing it, and then you started infusing it in your journey.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, and if someone is just planning to do something on AI, or maybe he's being forced as an as in a organizational level, or maybe due to market hype, that you need to do something in AI in your organization. So is there any framework or any views you can share with them that how they can start from being based on your experience?
Yeah. I have a very specific framework on this, and this is something that we actually went through.
Okay.
So a lot of people want to build general AI tools. Like they
Hmm.
think, I'm going to build a tool that would generate follow-up emails for all salespeople.
Hmm.
I'm going to build a tool that would, you know, respond to, let's say, generate marketing copy for all people. I'm going to build a tool that would, be in like Google Docs and write documents for people.
Hmm.
The problem with that is, well, 2 problems. There's a limitation on the technology. It's not
Hmm.
general enough yet. It may not be for the next 10 years. Second
Right.
problem is, a lot of the major use cases that are general enough, they have billion dollar companies, even trillion dollar companies working on it.
Mhm.
In the case of if you want to build an email tool, Google, Microsoft, they're integrating AI into Gmail and Outlook. You want to
Right.
build something with vision. Um, Midjourney is doing stuff with images and vision.
Right.
So the only way that you can compete is if you compete in an area where you have the most niche knowledge about, and then
Mm.
there's no incentive for an incumbent to do. So that
Mhm.
could be anything from like if you're into podcasting,
Mhm.
um, I would say different types of podcasts, like tech podcasts, require different things from, let's say, marketing podcasts. So if you're a tech podcaster, think of like the most narrow thing I can do in tech podcasting,
Mm.
and then try to
Mhm.
build a solution for that and build a solution for like one person.
Mhm.
And then you start expanding from that. You build a solution for like two people. And
Mhm.
technology is so unpredictable that you have to be so niche and then develop before you go out to market.
Mhm.
So that's the framework that I think of something that you're deeply knowledgeable about, and then try to build a very niche solution for before before expanding.
Okay. Now, as this technology is emerging and it's a new, right? And so there are no so much practices are being followed for maybe from coding development to taking to fine tuning and even the RAG and then how to take it up RAG and how to evaluate it and self evaluate it and maybe manage it. So, what were your top challenges which you faced as your team while developing this product?
Yeah,
And keeping in mind that you have a target to go and how quickly you can go to market, so
right.
maybe linking with your pressure that okay, I need to release it maybe 6 months and then the technology and everything's new and it's popping up so many things.
Yeah. You know, the rise of the AI engineer, people think like you have to know a lot of machine learning and stuff. That is true. But
Mm-hmm.
80% of machine learning is just software engineering. It's just like
Mm-hmm.
manipulating data, doing evaluations and things like that. I would say you need like one or two deep machine learning engineers, and then you
Mm-hmm.
need a lot of software engineers and AI engineers.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the challenges that I faced was I studied software engineering.
Right.
Um, I took a couple of data science classes. I took a couple of
Mm-hmm.
machine learning classes, but I'm a software engineer at heart. I did like
Right.
distributed systems. And
Mm-hmm.
so tried to bring on people on the team who have machine learning expertise and also try to learn machine learning when I need to know what's going on under the hood.
Mm-hmm.
And then a few months into the company, we made a resolution that we would only hire AI engineers. So you don't have to be a machine learning engineer, but you have to deeply understand like what is RAG, what are embeddings, how does a neural network work under the hood. Like you don't have to
Right.
implement it, but you just have to understand like how it works. So
Mm-hmm.
hiring people who are knowledgeable about AI, but not necessarily machine learning. So I feel like
Mm-hmm.
there should be a separation of what an AI engineer is, what a machine learning engineer is, and what a research machine learning researcher is. And these are three vastly different things. And
Mm-hmm.
for a company like us, we need a few machine learning engineers and a lot of AI engineers.
Hmm. Mhm. Mhm. Okay. So maybe this brought me to a question which I usually ask, and the rationale behind is that I want to get some tips for the carrier who want a new carrier.
Yeah.
So you must be interviewing a lot of engineers or in a different. So maybe some of the tips which you target to see in the candidates.
Right. I have three things that I look for in a candidate.
Mhm.
Uh, the first thing that I look for is, well, can they ship fast? Have they
Mhm.
shipped something in the past? So one of my interview questions is, I ask them, you have 1 week sprints and you have 2 week sprints.
Mhm.
Which one would you have the same scope? Which one would you
Right.
go for and why?
Mhm.
Um, there's only a couple of right answers to this. Some people would say, well, I like the 2 week sprints because it gives me like a lot of time to like develop and then test. And then after that,
Mhm.
I can ship. That's
Mhm.
okay. But we're a company that's very early. We move really fast.
Right.
I like the two answers that I like is when someone says I like 1 week sprints because I can ship fast, or someone says I
Mm-hmm.
like 2 week sprints because in the first week I can ship fast and I can spend all the time in the second week testing
Mm-hmm.
the stuff that I've shipped in the first week. So that I like stage stuff in the first week and then test in the second week. That's like one of my tips. That what I look for in a candidate. Second thing that I look for in a candidate is, have you published stuff on the internet just for
Mm-hmm.
yourself that no one uses? So I ask people this question, like, what are some of the projects that you have built that no one, like, it's only for you, but you still published it on the internet? You would be
Mm-hmm.
surprised. People tell you, oh, hey, I've built a restaurant app. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, but like, do you have a restaurant? Like, do you have a personal story to tell? I had to reject a candidate who had built an amazing gym app, but it
Mm-hmm.
was not because they were into working out. It was just because they thought this is something cool to build, and then they built it. What you want in a startup is people who care about the best startups are people solving problems for themselves. So find
Mm-hmm.
people who build stuff for themselves and then put it on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And the last thing that I look for is,
Mm-hmm.
what are you obsessed with outside of coding? This is the last question I ask.
Mm-hmm.
And I've gotten amazing answers to that question. Someone told me like I was obsessed with the ukulele, and then they told me all of their ukulele records, and then we vibed over that. Like, I want to see people who are obsessed with something else outside of coding. So these are the three main things that I interview for. And I recognize that as this go public, any more interviews that I do,
We need to change the strategy.
exactly.
And you're right. It happened with me. In my previous role, I was interviewing maybe every day's 2 or 3 candidates,
Yeah.
and what happened? Some point of time, the typical my questions started. I was started getting very easily answers. Then I realized there is some fishy, man. And then I spoke to the candidates and to the recruiters, and then they said, the people knows each other, and then if you keep asking the same typical questions, 3 4 tricky one,
To each other.
and yeah, they talk to each other. And then I thought, okay, now let's let's bring the new flavor to the questions. So that's
New
true.
questions.
Yeah. But eventually the idea of asking this question is that if someone is preparing for the next his job or role, then he can get the mindset of an interviewer and who's hiring, and a hiring manager. That's the whole
Exactly.
objective of this giving to that to them.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so now if we summarize your journey of from a setback failures point of view, which one is the best failure you are naming it? Yeah, that was a right or a best failure that gives you a head start to something else.
Oh, best failure.
I mean,
Wow.
it's linked to the fast. It's linked to the how fast you can ship it. Which the
Right.
someone is shipping very fast.
You meant like failure in terms of like my career journey, or like failure in the product?
Anything you can phrase it. Maybe it in a career, maybe it can be to learning some tool, or maybe going for a features, or maybe doing a market validation, or
Yeah.
maybe talking to a customers, and then customer says, oh, okay, no, this feature is not readily available, I don't want to use it. And that's maybe I developed it myself. It's
Yeah.
linking to that conversation.
Okay. I think I'll do one for product and I'll do one for career. So I think one
Mhm.
for the product that I wouldn't really classify as a failure was when we built the email tool,
Mhm.
scaled it to over 20,000
Mhm.
users, but we did not win that market. Um,
Mhm.
couldn't ship as fast as the other people, and I did not have as much marketing intellect.
Okay.
So we got viral really early on. We even had
Mhm.
Elon Musk retweet the
Mhm.
launch post. And
Mhm.
then um, we got 10,000 signups in 1 week, and then a couple
Mhm.
more hundred after that, and then eventually scaled to 20,000 until like other tools came up.
Mhm.
And then that tool is sitting at over 10,000 users now. But I would not consider it as a failure, but I would consider it as like not dominating the market, because when that thing
Mhm.
happened, I think we were the second people that used ChatGPT as a Chrome extension to write emails directly in your the UI of your
Mhm.
inbox.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so how that accelerated progress is it forced us to look for more specific niches that just happens to pay more. Enterprises and banks, they pay more.
Mm,
It happens to be, I would say, more impactful with what we're doing, instead of just like helping people write emails faster. Now we help people close loans faster, making people like happy and getting their dream homes and things like that.
mm,
So
mhm,
that's sort of like a product failure that I think would
mhm,
count.
mhm,
And one for a career, um, I think it will be hmm, it would be unfair to say that I have had like a lot of career failures, which I definitely have.
mhm,
I mean, I've failed interviews. There was one time that um, I interviewed for Bloomberg, and
mhm.
I'm African, so the person that I was interviewing with, excuse me, I have a little bit of
That's okay.
a raspy throat this morning.
Okay. That's okay.
So the interviewer was an internship interview, and then
Mhm,
when I got in there, I I was asked a question. So it was like a traveling salesman problem, but it was like related to like flights and like picking the right destination for a flight based on a bunch of flights, the optimal routes, blah blah
mhm,
blah. And then because he was African, I was like, oh hey, I heard his accent. I'm like, I can finesse and then probably like solve the problem, but like vibe with him. And then he ended the interview really early. I sucked really, really bad. Like it was one of the worst interviews I've ever been on. And then after that interview, I was like, well, how can I get better? So I made a
mhm,
YouTube channel and started
mhm,
making videos about algorithms and data structures, and then
mhm,
made all of them public. So I
mhm,
filmed like hundreds of algorithms, and they're still up on YouTube. I have a repository on GitHub that's public, is
mhm,
filming myself solving these algorithms and data structures problems. So like for the
mhm,
last 2 years of undergrad, I solved a
mhm,
bunch of problems. And then once I
mhm,
was ready to apply after undergrad, because that failure led me to build a lot of these like
mhm,
algorithms and data structures questions. I ended up getting like
mhm,
3 offers from Amazon,
mhm,
Snap, and Twitch. I
mhm.
would say that is one career failure that propelled me to do
No,
something.
that's true. That's an inspiring story, even from putting into and filming it and putting it in that. And frankly, when we started conversation, you asked me about the audience, right?
Yeah,
The age group. I mean, I force myself to do this podcast and video or any blog writing an article, and I'm doing it from maybe like 2008 or 9. And the only reason I do it, because whenever I see some new topic and which I want to learn it, I force myself to go and do some half cook work, and then I just go, okay, publish it.
yeah.
And that gives me the new information, frank. That's the whole objective, and that's keep forcing me, because I'm not very regular, because I don't have that some commercial or anything behind.
Right.
But the only reason is that if I want to learn something new, or maybe if I'm doing some day-to-day work, and okay, let's come and then write it down about that.
That's a
So
good strategy.
that's the only, I'm following it a long time, I'm following it. So I'm happy with that. I mean, it puts you some time on pressure that, okay, you need to be extra conscious how to write, what to write. Even maybe you're not expert, but nowadays I don't bother about it. I just go write and publish.
I have a question for you. So since you've been doing this since just 2008, it looks like you've seen like a lot of, trends, like, picks and local maximas and, like things that people thought were going to be transformative technologies and turns out they were just a fad. I have two questions. My first question is, do you have a pattern? Have you developed a pattern in your brain for noticing technologies that would become better? And it's okay if you can't explain that pattern, but like, have you discovered that pattern? And for AI in particular, because things are changing so fast, where would you see AI companies in the next 4 or 5 years? Like, what would you describe as an AI native company in the next 4 or 5 years?
Okay, so let me answer it in a twofold, maybe. As I mean, I'm a technology guy, and in my day-to-day work, I was very hardcore implementing ERPs for an organizations and large enterprises, for financials to supply chain to HR to all those type of okay. And that started giving me lot of insights that over the years you do with large organizations. What are the repetitive strategies coming from different, okay, they want to consolidate, someone will commit and then they will break it, and then they goes back to again some holding companies. So that started coming pattern. Now in 2020 we were doing a lot of IoT, blockchain, and primary blockchain, IoT. Web3 came after that in 2018 19. We were doing a lot of demos, everywhere with blockchain. Every problem will be solved through the blockchain. That's what we were doing as also.
Right.
And now then at that point of time I thought, okay, what I need to do is I need to do some structured program. And in 20 I started a regular, the way you were saying it, yet that you went into CS program. So I started, okay, I'm a full-time employee, so let me start with an MSc in AI in from University of Bath in UK.
Yeah.
So I started in 2020 at a structured program around 2.5 year. I completed last year.
Oh,
And when I
nice.
completed, thank you, I never read about generative AI in the whole program because it was not there, right? So all what we did was machine learning algorithms, and then social, political, and software engineering, and all mathematics, Python, and all that. And then when I came out from the university, and that you rightly mentioned for an interviews, and I went into for an one interview, and then the guy asked me about the generative AI embedding and all that. And I said, dude, I just, came out, and now I need to learn. I don't know because it was not taught in even university.
Right.
So those patterns, this is how you see as a person, as a personal. Now coming back to the question of an AI and how we're seeing it, it's not like a blockchain. I mean, I spent so many 1 2 years working with blockchain demos, preparing it. It
Right.
is not an IoT and all that. So it started impacting even our kids,
Yeah.
even right. So 10 years, 4 years, 6 years, or 10 years, he's asking about ChatGPT and all that. And now it's being added into each and every component of an application. Either it's a small enterprise or a large enterprise.
Right.
It started impacting it. So it's me. Now the race has just begun to where to not to add an AI. Frankly.
I like that thinking. Yeah.
So I
Thank you.
mean, so I think we'll see as the world progress and then it comes back. But I believe it's the way your application is solving problem. My brother is doing his he has his online this cake shop, which is a designer cakes for parties and birthdays and all that. And
Right.
he has his problem of, okay, how I will write a recipe, how I will answer to the customers, okay, and how I will manage my day-to-day operations. And I want one package, one AI coming from taking on order and delivering it to that one. That's what you mentioned, that solving the actual problem of someone
Yeah.
that will lead to it.
Yeah.
Now if that guy started thinking about it, okay, how I can bring something, within my business, which is or maybe increase my productivity. And that's where, if you see from everywhere, we started seeing it.
Productivity gains. Yeah. Productivity
So,
gains. That's that's
thank you
good.
for asking questions.
Thank you.
And okay, all right, so we have spent a lot of time, so maybe before we conclude our talk for today, if someone wants to reach out to you, or maybe what is the best medium to share with them?
Yeah. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. So if you Google, well, Michael Vandi, search me up on LinkedIn. I'm the first link that comes up. I'm very active on there. If you want to have a call with me, you can go to our website at addy.so And then if you book a call there, there's 100% certainty that I will be in that call. So that's one
That's
way to
wonderful.
just like get me on a call immediately. Just book a call on the website. I'll be on there.
All right. Thank you so much for joining. And how do you see Addy.ai moving forward?
Oh man, I think a lot of things are going to happen. The technology has the potential to scale not only from like mortgage loans, but from like auto loans, car loans, a lot of things, anything that requires like manual document review. I think that is something that AI would handle. And we're doing a whole lot of work in the document review process, like converting like unstructured data to structured data, then manipulating that. So super excited for what's to come.
Thank you so much for joining. I wish you good luck with your Addy.ai. Thank
Thank you so
you.
much, Chief. Appreciate it. Bye.